This is NASCAR Coast to Coast. 60 minutes of NASCAR local and regional racing talk, interviews, and opinions. Here's Kyle, Rickey, and Buddy Long.
The points race continues to be hot and heavy in NASCAR's Wheel and Modified Tour. Pulliam fends off the Hampton Heat to win leg one of the Virginia Triple Crown for NASCAR's late models. And familiar faces are joined by some new names atop the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series national standings. Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast for Tuesday, July 28th, 2015. Kyle, Rickey, Buddy Long, as we talk NASCAR local racing over the course of the next hour. Hello, buddy. They can see us now, you know.
I know they can. We're trying to provide some entertainment. We're trying to show them some of the things we did do before they got to see us on television.
They couldn't see this in the last 3 years.
No, that's pretty cool.
Had fun last week. Speaking of a good time up here, Brendan Gaughan filled in for me, and you guys had a good time.
Yeah, he did an awesome job. I told Craig, I said, I guess I got to be looking for another job because Brendan really identifies with these drivers. It actually kind of gave us some insight on the NASCAR Can-Am Pro Series West, as if we already don't have a young rookie crop. He already knows of about a good half dozen more that are coming up through the ranks that we need to keep our eyes on here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, he was doing a little bit of marketing himself
yes, he was.
Last week here, using the show to do that, and good for him. Busy weekend this past weekend, though, around the world of short track racing. Doug Coby picks up yet another win and puts himself, I don't know if he ever fell from contention after a really bad weekend in New Hampshire, but he's right back in it now after a win at the Monadnock Speedway on Saturday night.
He slipped a little at New Hampshire, and I don't think you can afford to slip anymore, especially given the competition you have with Woody, Pitcat, and Ryan Preece atop him, and then Todd Szegedy right behind him, who has been the most consistent driver within the top 5 or top 10, really top 5 the last several races. That Mystic Missile has been incredible.
Third win of the season for Doug Coby. He will join us here on the program in a little bit to talk about the O'Reilly Auto Parts 200 at the Monadnock Speedway. 15 points out of the championship lead now after a 30th place finish at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway 2 weeks ago. And if you're going to have a bad run, those races, especially at New Hampshire, are not the events to have a bad run just because of the large starting field that New Hampshire is able to accommodate.
Yeah, he's really fortunate that he's only down by about 15 with several races left to go, and going back to some tracks that he's done historically very well, which are Stafford Motor Speedway, Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park, where he won the Icebreaker, and obviously has another trip back to New Hampshire, has a big win at Bristol. So he's probably got to be hoping his mulligan is done for the year. He's going to need it to be.
We'll talk with him coming up about that here in just a little bit. One of the cool races all summer long. Actually, it's not cool. It was about 100 degrees on Saturday night. But the Hampton Heat, 100-lap late model race, great field of cars, and it was fun to be able to watch it with thanks to the internet and fanschoice.tv. Great race, Lee Pulliam was able to take down the win.
And it's a race that Lee needed to win, a big race with a large car count, because he's looking up, as is Doug Coby, but in a different set of standings, but looking up at similar people, Ryan Preece and Keith Rocco, that have built a pretty good lead because they have not only been very successful where they have been, but they've had very good car counts. And Lee has really been consistent. If you look at the standings all year long, it seems like every weekend there's been very few weekends where he didn't register a win somewhere. But then car count comes back into play, making sure that you do get maximum amount of points or as best that you possibly can. And again, two wins this past weekend. Good job for him. But yeah, that's a marquee event on the late model schedule for everybody.
Won at Motor Mile Speedway on Friday night, came back Saturday night to win at the Langley Speedway in the Hampton Heat 200, the first of the Virginia Triple Crown, I believe is what they call it, with a big race later this summer at South Boston.
Right.
And then they wrap it up at the Martinsville Speedway with the big 300 at the end of the year.
Yeah, and South Boston's got a pretty good point battle because Matt Bowling's atop that. We've talked about how Bowman Gray's season winds down quickly. Actually, South Boston's doesn't have a whole lot left, maybe about 5 or 6 races, a lot of twin 75s, so Lee's got to be chasing Matt in the battle for that series championship. Has a chance to win a couple of titles at 2 very big tracks in Virginia, but has really got to get on the gas and keep up with Rocco and Preece.
I'm talking about the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series national standings. Rocco, I don't believe, competed this past week. Took the night off at the Waterford Speed Bowl, so there's a full field there. They had 23 cars. He would have been the 24th. To try to win another full field event. Instead competed in the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour race at the Monadnock Speedway, but we'll try it again tomorrow night at the Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park as the activity kicks back up in Connecticut for Keith Rocco and Ryan Preece, 1-2 right now in the national standings. We'll also be joined today by Thomas Tillison Jr., new name to NASCAR Coast to Coast, and we're going to be able to talk about a couple of racetracks that we mention in our results every week, but we don't really dig a whole lot deeper into.
No, I mean, we try to cover everybody as best we can. One of the newest tracks on the NASCAR Wheel and All-American schedule this year is Flint Creek Speedway in West Shalom Springs, Oklahoma.
There you go.
If I say it slowly, I can say it right. But big impact, much like we've had with Kingsport and Lonesome Pine, with Anderson and Greenville Pickens for drivers last year. Now this has been huge for Thomas Tillison. A couple of other drivers that have been running both the high banks of either Salina or Salina. Which way is it? Salinas.
All right, Salinas. Salinas.
I thought it was Salina. I didn't think it had an S on the end of it.
Robbie?
It is Salinas. Okay, that just sounds like a disease. Okay. But no, they've been a lot of A-Mod drivers have been running both racetracks, and actually we have 3 drivers at least within the top 45 of the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series standings, with obviously Thomas Tillison Jr. being atop there, and he's had a great season. So it's going to be fun to talk to somebody about the newest track that is involved with NASCAR, but it's another dirt facility or 2 dirt facilities that we really don't get into or have a chance to get into very much. So this will be a good one.
And I want to know the difference, and we talk about them every week at a lot of different dirt tracks throughout the country. A-mods, B-mods.
Right.
Are they the same as like an SK modified on asphalt and an SK light?
Just a difference in carburetor, cubic inches or something.
Yeah, something like
horsepower.
that. And hopefully Thomas Tillison will be able to explain that. We'll also talk to him about his season right now, challenging for a couple of track championships and the NASCAR National Series Championship under the Wheel and All-American Series banner. A couple of other news items. Anthony Coupin back in a stock car this week after running the K&N race a couple of weeks ago at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Testing tomorrow at Caraway, and it's going to make his K&N Series debut this weekend at the Iowa Speedway.
I will give the final call coming off
debut.
turn number 4 for Anthony Coupin to win his first NASCAR Xfinity Series race. You think so?
That'd be pretty big, wouldn't it? That would be amazing.
Well, it's going to be a good weekend because talking to Brendan last week, it's not only Anthony's first race there. That's pretty cool. Also the last one for Kenny Wallace.
That's right.
For the NASCAR Xfinity Series. So a lot of good action that's going to be happening this Saturday night at Iowa.
Coupin going to be driving for Rick Ware Racing, of course, last year's NASCAR Euro champion, making that transition over into American stock car racing, and has run some late model races and some K&N races, and now making it up to the NASCAR national scene. Bill McAnally Racing going to have a combine very similar to, I guess, what we see for the D4D later this season over on the West Coast for drivers that really, probably can't make it over to the East Coast and run. A lot of young, talented West Coasters going to have a shot at driving for Bill McAnally Racing in the K&N Series, I guess in, 2016.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
I can't believe it's already 2016.
It's hard to keep track of what year it is. No, and it was great to have Bill on the show last week to just talk about, we know so many of his contributions in the motorsports industry, but now to add this combine as well, he's really churning out some very good talent out there, and it was just so cool to have him last week to talk about his contributions to the sport of racing and to see the Cannon Western program just gaining such momentum by leaps and bounds.
Combine will take place at the end of August on the 27th and 28th at the All-American Speedway over there in Roseville, California, kind of the home facility for Bill McAnally Racing on the West Coast. A lot of young drivers, and I'm sure many on that list that we will be talking to. And final news item, congratulations to Kenzie Rustin and Daniel Hemrick, 2 young drivers that have come up through the ranks, Legend Car Racing, Bandolero Racing, went to the islands this past weekend and got engaged.
Yep, I guess you got to cross another one off your list. Okay. Woody was asking about you last week because actually I guess he said Erica was wanting to say hi, and that's Erica Santos, Erica Pitcat now, I guess. Yeah. It's hard to say Pitcat, but yeah. Kenzie, another one of our very talented female drivers in the Cannon level. So best of luck to them. Daniel looked really good last Wednesday night.
He did
in the
Mud
Summer
race. Classic.
I mean, he got a lot of FaceTime up front. The guys on TV were talking about him quite a bit, and I'm sure you guys were on MRN as well. But what a great job he did, and what a great race overall.
Yeah, career best last week, a top 5 at the Eldora Speedway for Daniel Hemrick. So congratulations to Daniel and Kenzie. Those 2 have been together forever, and looks like they're going to be together forever. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to talk to last week's Monadnock Speedway winner, NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour driver Doug Coby joins us in a moment.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
Eventually, it's going to happen. You'll turn the key and your engine won't start. Don't lose your ability to get around. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts for a Super Start battery. Whether it's a reliable economy, hard-working premium, or powerful extreme, you'll find it at an everyday low price. Don't let a dead battery slow you down. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Motor Racing Network has always been your source for motorsports coverage when you couldn't be at the track. Now, MRN is even more accessible with the brand new MRN app, available on your iPhone or Android device right now. This free app delivers all the latest motorsports news and schedules, locates nearby MRN stations, streams your favorite programs, and lets you interact with the MRN team on social media. Search MRN in the App Store or on Google Play. It's the Motor Racing Network at your fingertips, and it's available right now.
Hey, this is NASCAR Whalen Modified Tour driver Timmy Salamito, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
All right, thank you. Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday afternoon, talking modified racing now. Obviously, one of my favorite types of NASCAR racing growing up in the Northeast with the driver that we're about to talk to in Doug Coby. Won another one up at the Monadnock Speedway, his first race win at the track, third at the season, and congratulations, Doug. Welcome back to the show. Another great run for you and your team.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. Really appreciated it. Certainly was a good weekend for us, and we needed it after the disaster we had at Loudon, so it feels really good to get another win.
Wasn't the good weekend that you wanted at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, but what a great way to rebound. And when a lot of people look at this, you lead 166 laps of the event. You would be the first one to admit it was not an easy victory by any stretch of the imagination.
No, we were it's never easy on a quarter mile. You guys know that. I mean, these bull rings are just so tough to stay consistent at and stay out of trouble. And, of course, there was a ton of lap cars to deal with. And, yeah, Woody Pickett in the 88 was right with us pretty much the whole time. I think we maybe had 2 or 3 car lengths at most. And there was obviously about six restarts kept them close. And, our car, I don't know, man, the LFR chassis just doesn't change, and it just stays so consistent. And we just had a great car from the drop of the green until the checkered flew.
Monadnock last year went caution-free. This year had a few cautions during the course of the event. I believe a couple of red flags as well. But when you are under green, how difficult at a bull ring, whether it be Monadnock, Riverhead, Waterford, how difficult are the lap cars, the lap traffic to get around?
Well, I mean, I don't really consider Waterford a bull ring to start, but Riverhead and Monadnock are tough because there's not a whole lot of room out there at some of these tracks, and Monadnock has more room than Riverhead, but it really depends because, on some of these long runs, just because you're the leader or running in the top 5, it doesn't necessarily mean your car's handling perfectly. And sometimes when you're going around the lap cars, some of them don't want to go a lap down, and then some of them, will race right up until you get onto their bumper. And if you got somebody right behind you, or if you're the guy who's trying to close in on the leader, sometimes the lap cars just take away your line, and it really hurts, for a lap or two to get back into your rhythm. We had some decent green flag stretches there at Monadnock this time, and on a quarter mile track, when you have 28 cars starting, there's going to be cars going lap down pretty quickly, and we all expect that, and everybody gave a lot of room for the most part, and it's usually, I think most everybody knows if it's not your day, it's not your day, and you move over when the leader's coming. So our series is pretty good at that.
Yeah, I was listening to your post-race interview, and when they were talking about lap traffic or asking you the questions about it, you said you were just very fortunate that in all the lap traffic you had to deal with, nobody ever spun out in front of you, because if they did, it would have been all over with.
Yeah, we caught a couple of groups of cars that I didn't even realize we were kind of lapping the top 10. And, these guys, they don't care if they're getting lapped. They're still racing for a top 10, spot. And then also, if a caution comes out late and you're on the lead lap and you're, running 7th, then you obviously can move up a whole lot. Or, if you're a lap down in 7th, you really can't. So I didn't know that as we were lapping them. So I didn't know how far up in the field we were lapping cars. So, everybody did a good job. The race went green to checkered last year, so we kind of all proved that we can get around that track on old tires and not wreck. And I think this year everybody, it was a great race. I think the fans enjoyed it, and obviously our team enjoyed it because we definitely needed the rebound.
I mentioned a moment ago, 28 cars started the event. This is a conversation that I think we had at the start of the season in talking about the icebreaker and the spring sizzler and the great car counts that and the competitive cars that the Modified Tour has seen this year and now has sustained. Got to be happy with what you're seeing out there as far as the quality of teams that are showing up every week on this tour.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. I think our series has, stepped it up this year. A lot of new people, a lot of rookies, and there's still even some more, I think, going to make their first couple of starts here later in the season. So it's a positive sign for all of us. It's a positive sign for the fans who want to see a lot of different people at the track and get to learn some of the new drivers. And, anytime you can get 28 modifieds on any track, it's pretty cool. And, we've just been really fortunate with our series to have the car count, 33, 35 cars every single race. And, and I know a lot of other series really can't get that right now. So things have been looking up for us, and I think the racing's been great. The coverage on television on NBC Sports Network has just been superb, and I think it's bringing in, some new life and some new interest to our series. So just up to us to keep putting on good shows.
And what a great rebound, as we mentioned, after having the stumble at New Hampshire with the issues both in the All-Star race and the Tour race. What a great rebound to keep yourself very much within the battle for points, because this year, if any year, it looks like there is almost zero room for error with the level of competition that you've got.
Yeah, it's, with Ryan, Woody, and Todd right now, seem like, the four of us are kind of running in the top three every race. And, to have a 30th place finish at New Hampshire certainly put us in a hole. But, our team doesn't quit, and we have our motto is max points. That's what we say every time. That's all you can do at the racetrack is go out there and try and get as many points as they offer. And that means lead the most laps and win the race. So we've got a lot of racing left in the season, and even though we were in a little bit of a hole, we kind of took a big chunk of that back in just one race. And, we're going to some tracks that I'm so excited to go to, because the last time we were at Stafford, if the caution didn't come out at the exact time the caution came out, I really thought we were going to win that race. And then we go to, of course, to Thompson, where we won the two races there this year, and then to Bristol, which has, been circled on my calendar for pretty much every year. So really excited with what we have upcoming, and I think our team's going to be pretty solid.
You touched on it a moment ago in talking about going into every race and trying to get max points. Do you look at the points on a weekly basis, or are you one of these guys that look at the standings? I know you mentioned to Derek Pernasiglio during the race broadcast that I think his second question to you was about points, and you really didn't say that you're looking at the standings much, but do you look at the points, especially after a race like New Hampshire?
Yeah, I look at the points probably like twice an hour.
Wow.
And, hoping that sometimes they'll change.
Mm-hmm.
I like stats. I like looking at average starts, average finishes, who's strong at certain tracks, who's put together good strings of finishes in a row. Todd Zegedy, nobody saw him coming. I mean, the Mystic Missile and Todd, a great combination this year with top three finishes in just about every single race we've been at. And it's just one of those things where I like to keep track of that stuff. That's just more my nature. And yeah, as soon as we ended the race at Monadnock, my car owner, Mike Smeriglio, he's an accountant, so he's obviously a stats guy too. And we're, just trying to figure stuff out. And, it's not because we're worried about it. It's just because we enjoy it. It's just, it's fun for us to kind of check up on things. And it doesn't necessarily mean though that I'm out there running every lap on the racetrack thinking about points. I like to look at it after the race is over and whatnot. And I'm not calculating that stuff, in my head, knowing, I just know I want to finish in front of the 60, 88, and the 4 at this point. And that's my goal. And obviously just to go out there and win the race that accomplishes that.
And last year you did a little bit of SK racing on a Friday night at Stafford Motor Speedway. Do you, even though drivers love to race, they love to do it as often as they can, but for you, does it work better for you just to strictly focus on the tour right now? Are you more comfortable in focusing on that instead of doing some local racing, whether it be a Stafford SK race on a Friday night or something in Waterford or Riverhead on a Saturday?
I'd say not really. I mean, I like to race a lot. I kind of get burned out though, year after year doing the same stuff. I don't know, maybe I'm getting old and I'm just not as excited sometimes to go. And I certainly only want to go to the track when I'm excited to go there. So I think this year was a good break for me. I won't rule out going back to Stafford in an SK or Waterford in an SK, and doing some more racing. I told you guys in the spring that a lot of that had to do with my business situation and just how busy I am with that. And I love the tour. I love the races we go to. I love how excited the fans get when the Modified Tour comes into town. I mean, I ran, the open show at Monadnock, and that's an awesome thing that is going on with getting some more modified races. But the fans really showed out in full effect for the tour race. And, no matter what people say about our tour and other options that are out there, it still is the best modified touring racing, in the country. And that's what people want to see. So I love it. I love talking about it. You guys know that. And, I'm just happy to represent our tour and my team whenever I get a chance to talk to you guys or go on, TV or whatnot. So it's just a great little series, and I have a lot of fun with it.
He would have more time to run local races if he wasn't so busy trying to find you that dream home up in New England.
That's right.
That you have him on retaining for. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think
so.
so.
Is that why
Coby's
Coby's not running?
One of them right now, Kyle. So if you want my house, I'm getting ready to put one on the market.
We'll talk later. You were talking about the series and what a great series it is. And if you're not a fan, and I know the race didn't work out well for you, but the All-Star race on Friday in New Hampshire was, every race in New Hampshire for the most part is good. I mean, there's a couple over the last few years that we've had a few too many yellows, but that All-Star race was unbelievable. And I know it didn't work out for you well, but the format itself, Doug, with the 35 laps, 20 and 15, a good format for the modifieds. It seems like there could be a little more time built into the day for that event.
Yeah, I mean, the event itself is awesome to be able – it's really 2 feature races at Loudon, right. and what gets better than that? One's shorter and one's longer, and one pays points and one doesn't. And it's awesome with the 2 cars there. Everybody practices both and tries to figure out which car is going to be faster, and we actually have to declare our tour points race car before we hit the track. So you might have an all-star car that's faster than your points race car, and you can't race it if you brought 2 to the track. So the guys that brought 1 then are at risk of wrecking in the All-Star race and not racing on Saturday. So there are some things that I think could be tweaked a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of drawing out of a blind hat for, starting lineup because, to come from 20th to try to get into the mix there at the end of the race is very difficult to do. I don't know what the better option is, but I just don't necessarily love that. And then, the timing is something that I think, New Hampshire Motor Speedway is going to have to look at and just making sure that, if there's an accident or 2 in the All-Star race, you don't really want to cut laps out of it for the fans. And I think that, this year there weren't as many fans in the stands on Friday as there was last year for whatever reason. So I just think it just depends on what the fans have going on at that point in time and how do we get them, more involved with the All-Star race so that it's not just an All-Star race that the modified tour teams are watching,
Yeah, absolutely.
But, yeah, what a great event, and I love being a part of it. And, whether we were out on lap 3 or we contended for the win, it's an all-star race, and that's what happens. Things go down. And I'll tell you what, I learned a lot from watching that race on the sidelines. After we wrecked, I learned how Woody and Ryan were going to race each other, and I think it helped me for the part of the feature that I got to run. And then, unfortunately, we never got to finish. But the 2 team was strong there. The car was phenomenal in the tour race, and it just was a terrible weekend all around,
But you rebounded a week later, also in New Hampshire at the Monadnock Speedway with the race win, your 3rd of the season, back up there in the championship fight. And we look forward to seeing you just in a couple of weeks here. Hard to believe we're already looking to the Bristol Motor Speedway middle to the end of next month.
Yeah, big summer stretch coming up for the modifieds. And, a big thing about this Monadnock win for me personally, too, is that this is my first quarter-mile win ever, and that's a cool thing. And I told you guys at the beginning of the season I had 3 goals this year, and that was the top 10 in every race, which we know isn't going to happen. And then I wanted to win on a bull ring on a quarter-mile, and then I want to win at Bristol. And that would make me a happy camper if that could happen. So we got 1 down, and we got 1 more to go, and that's circled on my calendar, man. It's the day after my birthday every year that we race down there, so I would really love a Bristol win for my birthday present, So I'll see you guys down there. It'll be a lot of fun.
Look forward to it. Going to be a good time at the Bristol Motor Speedway, but first you have an event at Stafford here in a week or so, and then off to the Thompson Speedway for the Bud 150 in 2 weeks from now. Doug, thanks for joining us as always. Look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks, and best of luck to you when you get at it at Stafford Speedway next time out.
Yeah, guys, thank you very much for having me on, and hopefully we talk a couple times before Bristol.
There we go. Former series champion Doug Coby joining us here on the guest line, and always, he's about as big of a fan as modified racing as any of us.
Yeah, he's very passionate about what he does. As you can tell, he's a big statistician. Stays on top of it. As much as drivers say they don't follow points, they follow points. You can tell me that till you're blue in the face, but this is going to be a tremendous battle that is going to go right down to the wire. Priest isn't going to give any. Nope. Woody's not going to bend any. Zegedy's now a wild card thrown in there. It's good to see, as Doug mentioned, he is back in a groove. That team has finally found their niche again. And then you have other people. Eric Goodale,
Yep,
he's
Goodale,
within striking
fifth in
distance.
points.
Patrick Emmerling, he has been up there quietly, done a very good job. A lot of very good drivers that still we have yet to see the cream of the crop or the best of the best still yet this year.
Woody Pitkat could be the dark horse here because, Zegady's got a championship, Coby's got a championship, Ryan Preece has a championship. They know what it feels like to win a title, so that may give them more incentive, but Woody really wants the championship. He was in contention for a good chunk of last year, had 2 bad races mid-season that put him out of the championship fight, but so far so good for Woody Pitkat this season in a run for his first NASCAR Whelen Modified Championship. When we come back, we're going to talk about late model racing with the Hampton Heat 200 winner. Lee Pulliam joins us in a moment.
Coming back with more of NASCAR Coast to Coast, it's Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long right after this.
NASCAR returns to the Tricky Triangle for the Windows 10 400 on Sunday, August 2nd. Get your tickets now at PoconoRaceway.com or by calling 1-800-RACEWAY. Don't miss Jeff Gordon as he tackles the Triangle in his final full-time season and takes on names like Johnson, Earnhardt, and Harvick. And the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series will be part of the weekend action with the running of the Pocono Mountains 150 on Saturday, August 1st. Get your tickets now at PoconoRaceway.com or by calling 1-800-RACEWAY.
Whether you long to see the majestic Rocky Mountains or the warm sandy beaches of Florida, get there in a Tom Johnson Camping World RV, the nation's #1 rated RV dealer. Tom Johnson's service and selection are second to none, with one of the largest inventories in the country, from pop-ups to motorhomes. Check out the RV of your dreams wherever you are at TomJohnsonCamping.com or visit our locations by the Charlotte Motor Speedway and the Blue Ridge Mountains.
This is NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour driver Doug Coby, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
Just wants to be a part of another segment of the show.
How do you do that?
I don't know. And we're talking about Woody Pitkat. I still got the dust in me from Eldora, I think. Talking about Woody Pitkat a moment ago, he'll tell you what reality show he would like to see himself on here in a little bit. And those that know Woody well won't be surprised.
Okay, so that's good.
That's coming up in a little bit in our Off the Wall segment. But let's talk about the Hampton Heat 200. Huge late model stock car race. Great field of cars at the Langley Speedway this Saturday night. And topping them all, Lee Pulliam winning at the checkered flag. And Lee, congratulations on the win. Great race. Fun to watch the other night at Langley. Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast. Great run for you guys.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be back on with you. And you're right. That was one heck of a show from a driver's seat. I know that.
Well, it just seems like as each and every week goes by, we talked about it earlier, it's not many weekends that have gone by this year that we have not seen the name Lee Pulliam in victory lane, no matter where it may be. But talk about how key this victory was, especially where you stand in the Whelen All-American standings, where you are at the point of the season, the car count, the quality of cars that you beat, and what this does for you as you steam into the second half of this season.
The win was huge for me and my team. We've never raced at Langley Speedway before this year, and we found success, but we've been looking for that extra edge at the place, and I think we finally found it. And the car was really spot on all night long. We had a little bit of a pretty good battle pretty much throughout the night with different drivers, that stepped up and challenged. And we didn't run as well in the first half as we needed to, but we made the right changes, and everybody just focused on what was important, and that was getting the victory lane. And with the car count there, it was a big night for the national points, and just hopefully we can keep the momentum going forward.
30 cars in the field on Saturday night. It seemed like every big name in late model racing here in the Southeast was on hand. How difficult was it out there for you? And I know qualifying was just as competitive as the race, and getting a starting spot toward the front of the field. Yeah,
we just barely sat on the pole. It was really, really tight throughout the whole field, really. We had a pretty good battle with Matt Waltz and Tyler Hughes at the beginning of the race, and led a decent amount of the first half, and actually fell to ninth right before the break, and just couldn't get going on the inside on the restarts, and just kept getting shuffled back, and finally had a pretty decent green flag run and drove it back up to fourth by the time the caution come out. And from the second half on, I just I decided the bottom wasn't working for me, so on every restart I just opted for the outside. And once I took the outside and got the lead and the clean air, the car was just really, really good. And from then on out, the rest of the race, everybody was going for the bottom, and I was taking the outside on every restart. And nobody really thought the outside was going to work at Langley this weekend because they had just paved the bottom, and somehow or another we got it to work.
Just 3 events left at Langley Speedway this year. We talked about how the clock is ticking in a variety of different ways, not only for the Whelen All-American Series standings, also at South Boston Speedway. A good handful of races left to go. You are looking up at Matt Boland in the battle for the championship there. Then you switch gears over to the Motor Mile Speedway, which you won at this weekend. You and Matt Boland also in a very tight battle for the championship. Talk a little bit about the odds of getting back up there and maybe claiming that South Boston Speedway championship.
We've been really good at South Boston this year, just no luck. We broke a track bar lead the other night. We've had a couple failures that, normally hasn't seemed to bit us over the years. Just some crazy stuff happened, and we're still got a shot at him. Matt Boland's got a pretty good lead. He's been consistent. He hasn't won a lot of races there, but he's been top 3 every week, and just very consistent. And at Motor Mile, on the other hand, we've won every race but one there, and finished second to Matt there. So, it's between me and Matt at both tracks, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for him to come back at Motor Mile. It's going to be tough for me to get him at South Boston, but I don't think either one of us plans on giving up.
And to bounce off of Buddy's question, talking about the odds of the track championship, well, how about the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series National Championship? The updated standings for this week have not been released yet, but I'm assuming you gained ground. Keith didn't run at Waterford this past weekend. He ran the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour race. Ryan unable to get to victory lane at the Stafford Motor Speedway, and those are the only 2 guys in front of you right now in the Division I in the country.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough race right down to the wire. Keith and Ryan both are great competitors, and modifieds, those guys have it licked, and it's pretty impressive to see what both of those guys have done over the course of several years. And down here we're just trying to do what we can do. Car count's been a little tough for us this year, and trying to do it the legit way. Just trying to go where the cars are, and it's really hard to tell. All the tracks are just kind of up and down on car counts all year long. So that's where it's so tough. I think we've won more races than anyone, but we just can't quite get the car counts that we need to have.
But you had 15 victories so far this year. But that's a credit to you, your team, the product that you put out of your race shop. When you go to a place like Langley Speedway, a place you're not used to being at, you run against some of the best in the country and you come away with the victory. You're taking advantage of the opportunities wherever they are. Just speaks volumes for what you've done. Obviously, a 2-time national champion. Yes, indeed, looking up at Keith Rocco and Ryan Preece in the battle for the series championship. But just a testament to the great race cars that you guys put out of your shop each and every week.
Yeah, we've been extremely blessed. I keep up several other cars myself, and they've had tremendous success this year too. We've got Julia Landor. She's running limited at Motor Mile with a pretty legit shot for the championship there, and won some races. And we got G.R. Waldrop running out of the shop and doing some stuff for Dalton Sargent. And we've had fast race cars for everyone out of the shop, and that's what's neat for me, because I put all my hard work, sweat, and blood and tears into this stuff. And I'm not just a race car driver. I'm a suspension guru, setup guru. I just get involved in the whole process, and I think that's what makes me a better race car driver is I understand the car inside and out. So when I'm at the racetrack and I'm feeling something that I don't like, I really can tell the guys, hey, look, we need to change this, we need to change that, and to make the fix that's appropriate for what's going on with the car, I can relate to it better, I feel like.
This win at Langley, how big is that toward what we call, and the media folks call, the Virginia Triple Crown? The big 3 races: South Boston, Langley, and that, the last race of the year at the Martinsville Speedway.
It's a big step, because that was the one at Langley was really all of them, anything can happen, but I was really worried about that one being that we had never run it before. Last year we won South Boston and Martinsville, so we've got a lot of experience in both of those places. So I feel like we passed the big test, and now we just got to stay out of trouble in the next two, which is easier said than done, especially Martinsville. It gets right crazy up there battling for the win. You only get to run it once a year, and it's going to be a good show for everyone. I know it's a bunch of guys eyeing that title, the Triple Crown title, and I think it's a really good thing for the short track racing community in Virginia. It gets the drivers involved in traveling to different places and gets more competitors at all three events, I believe.
Got the attention of the competitors, got the attention of the race fans. Looked like there was a huge crowd there at the Langley Speedway on Saturday night. We expect the same at the next two at South Boston and Martinsville. That Martinsville race, there was some talk late last season, especially with Dale Earnhardt Jr., about the caution with 10 laps to go to bunch everybody up. What are your thoughts about that late race caution that Martinsville throws for that event?
I agree with Dale Jr. 100%. I wish they would do away with it. There has been years that I won the race due to the caution, and there has been years that I lost that race due to the caution. So, I guess it's some added suspense and stuff for the fans, but it's really tough on all the drivers and competitors, and it's really a disaster waiting to happen when you got guys gunning for a clock and $25,000, and it's tough. I can see where they're coming from with it, but I can also see the competitor side of it. And a few years we had a 5-car battle there when the caution come out with 10 to go. It messed up a great battle for the lead. So several times I think it's hurt the race ending more than it's helped it. And I feel like when you have that many cars in Martinsville Speedway, nobody's going to run away with it regardless if you have that 10 to go caution or not. So let the guys race it out and just see what happens.
I agree on both fronts. You want a good show for the fans, but a lot of these late model teams can't fix these cars as easy as these bottomless budget Sprint Cup and Xfinity teams can. And we've seen a lot of equipment torn up over those last 10 laps over the last couple of years since they implemented that caution with 10 to go. Lee, as always, thank you for joining us. Congratulations again on the win, and we look forward to watching you race for the Triple Crown. We look forward to watching you race for track championships and to get into the national championship under the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series banner. A busy summer for you this year. It's far from over.
Thanks, guys. I sure do appreciate it, and enjoy being on as always.
All right, Lee Pulliam, one of the great guys of short track racing and in the late model stock car ranks down here in the Southeast, and always fun to watch. And I think, and you mentioned a moment ago during one of Lee's answers, Keith actually finished second at the Stafford Speedway on Friday night, so he picked up some points there. But I think Lee has a pretty good shot of coming back and taking this championship, at least contending for it, now being, 50 points behind Keith?
Well, the biggest problem is, I guess,
or 32.
They don't. He's not running consistently. I mean, Keith and Ryan are running every weekend, and they got good car counts. You look at the South Boston schedule, it's every other week. It could be every 3 weeks. Motor Mile, they're having twin 75s. They only have a handful of races left. Yeah, they may have good car counts, but they're not running as often. I guess you take your best amount of, best 30 finishes? Or is it best 20?
I think it's like best 18 or 20.
Or 18 or 20,
something like
yeah.
that.
So, yeah, it's pretty tough. He's got a pretty good hole to dig himself out of. I think Rocco and Priest, once they got the lead, they're going to be hard to get around.
Yeah, no doubt. And they have a lot of races left.
Yes.
But I believe that season goes till, the end of September.
I can never remember. One of these days I'm going to write it on a wall in my house and not paint over it.
Whenever they close the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series national standings, I think it's mid-September, September 15th weekend, somewhere in that neck of the woods.
School, when I get back to school or something.
There we go.
I'm going in 8th grade this year, by the way.
For the 42nd time. Anyway, we're going to get back at it here with Thomas Tillison Jr. in just a moment after the break. He's currently 6th in the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series national standings and running well at 2 racetracks in Oklahoma. We'll hear from him in a moment.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
The road to victory lane isn't just for drivers anymore. Introducing the official daily fantasy game of NASCAR at DraftKings.com, America's favorite daily fantasy sports site. Just pick a team of 5 drivers and stay under the salary cap. Outscore your opponents and win. Hurry to DraftKings.com now and use promo code COAST to play for free. You could win part of the $1 billion in prizes being awarded this year. Enter COAST to play for free now at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
This is Steve Post.
And I'm Kendra Jacobs.
Join us every Saturday morning at 9:30 Eastern Time for MRN's Wing Nation on MAV TV.
We'll talk with the biggest names in wing sprint car racing, from the world of outlaws to your local wing sprint car track. We cover it all.
Plus, we'll preview each weekend's biggest wing sprint car races from around the country.
MRN's Wing Nation, 9:30 Eastern Time, Saturday mornings on MAV TV.
If you don't get MAV TV, go to getmavtv.com to find your local TV provider and let them know you want MAV TV.
This is NASCAR Can-Am Pro Series driver Cameron Haley, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MotorRacingNetwork.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
Cameron, of course, doing well in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series this year, driving for Thor Sport Racing. Did well at the Eldora Speedway just a week ago. Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network, as Buddy Long and I talk short track racing under the NASCAR banner every Tuesday afternoon between 1 and 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Also find us on iTunes and Stitcher and our website, mrn.com, if you miss a show.
Yeah, there's not too many places you can find us. Every nook and cranny. Let's just put it that way.
We're everywhere.
Yes.
As is Thomas Tillison, at least in Oklahoma, right now joining us on the hotline. Always fun to have a new guest here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, and Thomas joins us now. Welcome to the show, and congratulations on what seems like it's been a really solid year for you here in your Dirt Modified.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. We have had a real good year so far, and we're going to have to be on point to make things happen, to try to be in that hunt for the top 1 or 2 spots in the nation. It's been a real competitive year against a great group of cars and been tough, but we've had some real good success.
Well, and what a difference makes when you have a second track to go to and you have car count that's very solid at both of those racetracks. As we alluded to with the top of the hour, you're up there in the top 10 in the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series standings. You got Steve Holzcamper. He's up there. He's done a very good job. I believe he's 25th, or was as of last week. And Tyler Wolff, another one of the drivers that you battle with each week. So in the first year since Flint Creek came on board and joined Salinas High Banks, you guys have really made a great impression in the Whelen All-American standings.
Yeah, I think the NASCAR deal is a really a good deal. It's a good banner to run under, and it gives a lot of glamour or glitz, I'd say, with the France family being on board with everything, and the fans really enjoy it. It's something they can follow nationally, and we're racing against tracks all over, not just the U.S. but Canada as well.
We talk every week about the tracks in Connecticut and comparing Thompson to Stafford to Waterford, the tracks in Virginia and down here in North Carolina. Are there any similarities between Salinas and Flint Creek?
Not really. They are 2 totally different tracks, and we actually got a dedicated car for each track just because of the amount of changes we'd have to make each one be at the top level at each track.
Right now, I believe you are 5th in the A-Mods at Flint Creek. I think you're showing the way as the points leader at Salinas High Banks, but you're showing one less race participation-wise to the next driver behind in the series standings. So evidently there's either a typo or you've had yourself a pretty good season when you're not in victory lane.
Yeah, we have. I think our goal by the end of the year, by September the 20th, when the points end, I think it is to have either all 18 wins or 18 number 1 or number 2 spots with max points with at least 18 cars or more, and we're on pace to do that. I mean, we've kind of hit the hot part of the year here, and it's kind of a grind right now, at least for the next 3 or 4 weeks. When we get into September, I think we'll see the car counts even come up more. But there's been some races at Salina that we've raced against 45 cars, 42 to 45 cars in a night, and there for a while we were averaging over 30 cars a night.
As of last week, 8 wins in 17 starts, 14 top 5s, 14 top 10 finishes. Those numbers obviously will be updated here probably later today from your results from this past weekend at both of those racetracks. Every week we talk about A-Mods and we talk about B-Mods, Explain your race car a little bit, and A-Mod, and what are the biggest differences between an A-Mod and a B-Mod that run at a lot of these NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series dirt tracks?
Well, it's mainly engine and the lack of spoiler. We run A-Mods are basically a late model with a factory front clip with 8-inch tires. The B-Mods run the same tires, and they got more limitation on the engines. But the A-Mods are a full bore, all out kind of race car late model style deal for dirt tracks, only with smaller tires and a factory front clip. But we run the 4-link suspensions. You run lift arms with pull bars. Shocks must be steel, bodied shocks. But there's a lot of technology in these A-Mods. In fact, we've run against some of the NASCAR guys in these A-Mods when they want to come run a local track or something. I think either Kenny Wallace or one of the NASCAR drivers is going to be at a couple local tracks this week here where we race.
So with that being said, since we do follow a lot of the UMP modifieds and the IMCA modifieds out in the Midwest, we get to see a lot of them run down at Florida Volusia Speedway Park for Speed Weeks. Is the A-Mod that you run comparable? For those that are trying to picture what you're saying, is it very comparable? And could you take your car down to Florida and run it, or is there a lot of modifications that you'd have to make to run with the UMP or the IMCA guys?
Well, the IMCA guys they have less motor and not as sophisticated a chassis, but the UMP guys, they're going to be a lot like our cars, just with a different tire. So the UMP guys, there are some races that the A-Mod guys go race with the UMP guys, and I think they got to swap some tires. And I think the UMP deal's got some pretty big motor stuff. So a lot of our motors are 388s, 415s. We don't run any of the big block stuff. Most cars don't. And then we run a spec head with the rules package that we run, so we can get another 2 inches of blade on the back. But yeah, we would definitely run with the UMPs, but not the IMCA stuff.
Buddy and I were talking a little bit ago with Lee Pulliam about a lot of late model tracks up here beginning to wind down their season. Bowman Gray Stadium, in fact, only has, I believe, 2 or 3 events left. Motor Mile only has a couple of nights left on the schedule. What's the remaining schedule look like for you at the 2 tracks down there in Oklahoma? And as you chase these points, is there enough time left for you to jump into the top 2 or 3 and challenge?
Well, I think there's around 7 races per track left.
Okay.
Some of those races are big shows, and there's going to be some conversation on how the NASCAR points will work against big shows coming in and how they want to do that. If we don't get NASCAR points for 2 of those shows, I think that's going to knock us down to 5 at Salina, and that's also pending on the weather. So, it's down to crunch time right now. We want, like I said, we set out the first of the year, obviously, with goals of finishing the top of this deal, or we wouldn't have dedicated all of our resources to it. And there's enough races still to make that happen. But we race against a tough group of cars every week, and it's almost impossible to try to gain those extra 2 bonus points coming from 10th to 1st. So we're mainly just focusing on those wins. And if we end up with 12 wins pretty quick here, 13 wins, then maybe we got to start rolling the dice and pedaling the car a little bit to only qualify 10th or 11th and see if we can make that happen to get 2 extra bonus points, because we're at that part of the season and the part of the points where every single point counts and every lap means something, and it's a lot of stress, but it's a lot of fun as well, trying to chase this dream down.
And one of those big events coming up in just a couple of weekends at Flint Creek Speedway. I believe you got a big $1,500 to win A-Mod race. Take us back to the beginning of the year, or actually the off-season, as it were, when you found out that Flint Creek Speedway was going to be a part of the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series, what that meant for you and your team, and also now bring us to the present, where each and every week we're not just talking Lee Pulliam, Keith Rocco, Ryan Preece. In that same breath, we're also throwing in Thomas Tillison Jr. now.
Well, when we started out the year with Salina, we've always enjoyed the staff and the owners. They put on a great show, and they really show that they appreciate the fans being there. They appreciate the owners and drivers showing up and racing, and it shows with their car counts and their fan support, and them being teamed with NASCAR. with all the contingency sponsors, with Ingersoll Rand, and the different things that you can win, the good money that they put up. We've always had our eye on Salina. I've never dedicated myself all year to racing a specific points at this level. And after racing a couple of races there this year and doing really well, the promoter there came and talked to us and goes, "Hey, man, I know you've heard about this NASCAR deal. You ought to consider running that full time." And I got my sponsors together and me as the owner and talking to my family and said, "Listen, instead of traveling all over the United States, what do you think about running Salina, and with Flint Creek being an option?" It was something that we felt like with the car counts that we thought they would have, that it would give us an opportunity to run, against the top level guys in the nation with this series. So we dedicated ourselves to doing it. And as the year has kind of progressed along, I mean, we've had a lot of success. We really haven't had the greatest luck for the team, but sometimes just bad things happen. I mean, we've had some crazy stuff with some wires coming loose leading features. We had a left rear flat leading the A main last weekend at Flint Creek. We had a gasket go out on our regulator, on our fuel regulator, and had to pull off in a heat race, and that hurt. But we've put together a bunch of wins. We've got a lot of people excited around here, and we're excited to run for this NASCAR deal. It's really been a really a neat thing to run with. It gives the fans and us opportunities to be closer involved with some of the bigger sponsors, and we're looking forward to finishing out the year.
Yeah, no doubt. It has worked out for you right now, just outside of the top 5 in the nation in Division I in the NASCAR Wheelin' All-American Series. Thomas Tillison Jr., thank you for joining us. Best of luck to you the rest of the season, and maybe we'll be talking to you again before the end of the season or at the award ceremonies at the end of the year.
Sounds great, guys. Thanks for having us on.
All right, Thomas Tillison joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. We have results coming up in a bit, but first let's take a moment and get to know some of the stars of the NASCAR Regional Series in this week's edition of Off the Wall. What do you pick, Kat? Of all the reality on television, what's your favorite reality television show to sit down and watch?
Well, I haven't watched a whole lot lately, but I'd have to say that my top one would probably be WWE Divas. And then right under that would probably be Steve Wilkos, if that's still on.
So if you had the opportunity to get away from work for a couple of months and partake in a reality television show, what show would you like to see yourself a part of?
Well, Erica likes to watch, for some reason, every once in a while, Naked and Afraid. So I think I'd like to do that because I'm just nuts and I don't care, and I come out of the shower and just walk around and say I'm going to go outside like that. And she said, no, the neighborhood probably wouldn't be happy. And I'm like, well, I was born that way, so why can't we live everyday life like that? So it'd probably be a pain not being able to eat like I'd like to and stuff like that, but I think it would be cool to try that.
William Byron, if you could go back and witness one historical event in this world, what would it be?
I'd say just Jimmy Johnson's first championship in person would be pretty cool. If I could watch that, that'd probably, it's not too far back in history, but if I could go back and watch that and be a part of it, that would be the coolest thing for me.
Kenzie Rustin, what sickness have you lied about so you didn't have to go to school?
Poison ivy. I actually took leaves and put them on me so I could get poison ivy so I didn't have to go to school in elementary school. It was probably the stupidest thing I'd ever done because it was like the worst case of poison ivy I'd ever had in my life. It was not. Well, I know, but I didn't think I was that allergic to poison ivy. Not that bad, and it was like blisters. It was awful, awful.
Coming back with more of NASCAR Coast to Coast, it's Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long right after this.
Enter O'Reilly Auto Parts $10,000 payment payoff sweepstakes powered by Castrol Edge, and you could win $10,000 toward paying off your vehicle. Plus, weekly winners will receive $500 Visa gift cards. Visit O'ReillySweeps.com for official rules. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends August 25th. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hi, this is NASCAR Live's Eli Gold. For over 30 years, you've been asking questions to your favorite drivers every Tuesday night. Well, you don't have to wait for Tuesday any longer. Call Motor Racing Network's brand new fan hotline at 844-4ASK-MRN to leave a question or comment for your favorites.
The NFL plays regular season games at Wembley in London. So what are your thoughts about how NASCAR could expand internationally?
Be a part of the voice of NASCAR. Call 844-4ASK-MRN.
This is NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour driver Ron Silk, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
All right. Thank you very much, Ron. Another driver that we would expect to have been to victory lane by now, but unfortunately, the competition of the tour.
I missed the name. Who was it?
Ron Silk.
Ron Silk.
Well, you
okay.
were
I'm
too
sorry.
busy.
I'm too busy trying to just be a
distract
pain
me.
in your tail. That's right.
Mm-hmm. A lot of other news around the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series last week. A lot of tracks getting in. Not a whole lot of rainouts.
No.
There were a few, but not a lot. We'll start in, let's see here, California, Kern County Raceway, the only track in Southern California that raced last week. Eric Richardson won both of the twin 35-lap features for the late models. They return to action in 2 weeks on August 15th.
Trey Gibson taking the latest late model stock car event in Greenville Pickens Speedway over Jeremy Burns and Tasha Coomer. They'll be back in action this upcoming weekend for a 50-lapper.
Dominic Ursetta back in victory lane for the sixth time this year in his super late model at Colorado National Speedway in Tacoma, Colorado. Bruce Yackey finished in the second spot. They are back in action for Wheelin' Lights Up the Night this Saturday night.
Airborne Park Speedway up in New York, midseason championship for modifieds. Rookie Danny Sullivan took the win. Greg Atkins, another driver that's just outside the top 10 in the Wheelin' All-American standings, as a rookie, finished third. And a call out to Jimmy Zacharias, another guy that's quietly had a very good year. He's in the top 10 in the standings as well. He picked up the mod win at Chemung Speedrome.
The same Danny Sullivan?
No,
Okay.
not the spin and win.
I saw that as well. Stafford Speedway, Ronnie Williams took a win after a post-race ruling in the SK Modifieds after Ryan Preece got together with Rowan Pennick.
Yes.
Have you seen the video?
No, but I've heard the verbiage going back and forth.
Well, they dropped Preece back to fifth. Rocco up to the second spot. It was Williams' third race of the season. Tom Butler won in the late models. They are back in action this Saturday night.
Tommy Catalano, the Pro Modified winner at Holland Motorsports Complex. And congratulations to Randy Hannigan, the winner at the Run for the Rabbit at Lima Land Motorsports Park.
Run for the Rabbit. Love that. Haley Douglas won in the Super Stocks at the Magic Valley Speedway in Twin Falls, Idaho, that is. They are... Oh, we've lost control.
Well, that's the end of the show here.
That track back in action with IHOP Pancake Eating Night this Saturday.
And I congratulate Caleb Allison. He has struggled so much this year. He's been in the mix, but the defending champion at Lebanon I-44 Speedway finally got back into victory lane in pro late model competition.
Jake Gill. We'll go with that. One is
Selena Salino
race of the season at the Rockford Speedway in Illinois. That track back in action this week with the world-famous Figure 8 trailer race.
And who couldn't forget John Long winning the Kalamazoo Speedway in the Outlaw Super Late Models in the Hoosier 50. My uncle took the win. No, he's not my uncle.
I thought it was you when I read the results this past week.
No, I was at VIR.
Okay. Not at Kalamazoo, huh?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been a fun week. Another good time with you, buddy John Long. We'll do it again next week.
Absolutely. Looking forward to Iowa.
Want to thank Doug Coby, Lee Pulliam, Thomas Tillison Jr. for joining us here on the show, and for Buddy Long and producer Craig Moore, and our video op, Robbie Mays. I'm Kyle Rickey. We'll see you back here next Tuesday on NASCAR Coast to Coast here on MRN.com.
You've been listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast. Tune in next Wednesday at 1 Eastern for more talk from local tracks all over America. NASCAR Coast to Coast is also available on demand in the MRN.com Media Center or download from iTunes or Stitcher. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.